Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 2 of Pepe's Parlay for the NFL 2025-26 season. We had a pretty exciting week 1. Not gonna lie, we had possibly the game of the year on Sunday Night Football Monday Night Football between the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Fantastic game, great outcome, especially for Bills fans. We'll talk a little bit about that moving forward. On the disappointing side, as a Dolphins fan, I don't know what the hell happened there. If you are a Dolphins fan, you have a lot of reasons to be concerned. But the biggest thing is football is back, right? We are so much happier during these weeks when we have something to look forward to. It's Thursday night. We've got a great matchup for Thursday night football. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But let's get started with what I like to do to kick off the shows is kind of look at the top 5 to top 10 NFL teams, see how they move from week to week from a rankings perspective. And then we look at the bottom 5 to see who's up, who's down, who was at the bottom and is still at the bottom. And it's a great thing for us to target. For those of you that are also in survivor leagues, but specifically, you basically bet against the teams that are just pathetic and are awful. And there's a few that are like bottom ringers that we're going to be betting against all season long. And a few others that are rising and teams to watch for. So I'm going to kick it off by, I'm actually, instead of putting it on a spreadsheet like I did last time, I'm going to put up the NFL rankings from NFL.com. So it should be fairly easy for us to see this way. So here we go. And look, we'll kick off like zero surprise here to start off the season. The Philadelphia Eagles are still in first place. They had a heck of a game against the Dallas Cowboys. Kudos to Dallas, by the way, for hanging in there. But the Eagles are just so darn tootin' good. And even though they lost Jalen Carter to begin the game, the level of depth and the quality of the coaching of this Philadelphia Eagles, if you actually look across offense, defense, and special teams, they're clearly the team to beat. They're clearly the number 1 team in the NFL, and that's not going to change. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, made his argument for MVP for this season, and the 2 MVP candidates from last year, who should be the 2 MVP candidates for this year, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens went up, where Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, the 2 MVP finalists, went toe to toe. A game that, quite frankly, Baltimore should have won, but then Josh Allen showed why he is who he is. Kudos to Derrick Henry, who had a fantastic game until he fumbled the ball towards the end of the game. NFL.com still has the Ravens 3rd overall. I don't know if I'd have them that high. You have a big lead on the road with 7 minutes left. You have to win that game, right? You're up 15 points. It's ridiculous. And even though you should have survived the fumble, the defense has to come through and make plays. I know you're playing against Allen, but nonetheless, you're up by 15 on the road. And if you can't keep that kind of a lead against the Buffalo Bills, then you do not deserve to be number 3 in the rankings. That's my opinion. The Green Bay Packers, who I personally would have put at the number 3 spot, right behind the Bills and the Chiefs, the Eagles, had an incredible start to the season. We're going to get to see them tonight against the Washington Commanders team. More on that. But I got to tell you, man, like this, Jordan Love gets very little love overall, with all of the other quarterbacks that we talk about, the 2 aforementioned, obviously, Allen and the Ravens quarterback. God, why am I blanking out here? Lamar Jackson. Thank you. I just mentioned Lamar Jackson. Jordan Love, to me, is like maybe half a notch behind these guys, but just doesn't get any press whatsoever. So, but the Packers moved up 2 to the number 4 spot. I think they could have moved up 3 to the number 3 spot. Big matchup tonight against the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. And then at number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs, despite losing in Brazil to the Chargers last Friday. A lot of injuries. They dropped down a spot. No Rashid Rice due to the suspension. And Xavier Worthy got taken out by Kelsey. Fabulous, fabulous memes out there. So they dropped one to number 5. I'd have them a little bit lower than that. Tampa Bay's at 6. I like them there. The Commanders moved up to 7. Interesting selection there. I'm really, really high on the Commanders. I think I mentioned that last week. This is going to be a great matchup tonight, probably the game of the week. Then we have the Lions, who got schooled, quite frankly, and dropped 3 spots. Did not play well at all. I expect them to bounce back, though. They're a quality team, but they're definitely a team in decline. So still hanging on to this top 10 spot, but dropped from 5th to 8th. Denver Broncos haven't moved much. A little bit worried about Bo Nix, not going to lie, against the defense that I thought he was going to do more. I want to see more from Bo. A lot of people are saying he's overrated. I'm leaning on the pro bono camp. I like Bo Nix a lot. But these quarterbacks are going to make mistakes along the season. And then number 10, the Rams, who moved up 1 spot. So let's go down to our bottom, scroll down to our bottom 3. Let's start off here. Let's start off with the 30th. The Cleveland Browns are unfortunately really, really bad, as we talked about on every part of the game. If you like fantasy, you play fantasy, keep an eye on Harold Fannin Jr. He was actually pretty impressive. Flacco targeted him a lot. I personally just picked him up on waivers from. I actually have Travis Kelsey on the No Filter Fantasy Football League. Kelsey went onto the IR, so Kansas City is going to have some injury woes to take care of. I picked up Harold Fannin, and I will likely play him. I'm on the fence right now, but that's about the only bright spot. There's really not much happening in Cleveland. Completely terrible team. They moved up a spot only because the Carolina Panthers moved down a spot. Look, Bryce Young had an incredible end to the season. Last 4 or 5 games, he played really, really well. He was horrible in the first game. You're going to see a lot of good games and bad games from Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. A little surprised that offensive line wasn't a little bit better. And the Panthers dropped 2 spots to being the second to last worst team in the NFL. The worst team, the New Orleans Saints. Spencer Rattler wouldn't be a third string quarterback for most other teams. He gets the ball. The Saints when you start Spencer Rattler, you're basically throwing the season up. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals, who are not a great team, but this team is not good. I kind of like Calvin Kamara. That's like one of the bright spots here. But I gotta say, like this is a really, really bad team, and just something to bear in mind. We'll talk about that when we make our picks for the week. Thinking like these are the top teams, these are the ones that are rising. I pretty well agree with the NFL's rankings on this one. A little disagreement of how much grace they're giving to teams like Kansas City. I feel like the Chiefs, especially with the injury woes, without a Worthy, without a Travis Kelsey, they need to do some things to turn things around. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what we did last week and how we did. So on Pepe's Parlay, my commitment to you is we're going to be tracking all the bets we make. A single unit for us is $100, but it could be whatever you want it to be. It could be $1, it could be $1,000. It's up to you. It's between you and your bookie and your wife if she knows about it or not. And we'll keep honest tabs on the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we'll start off with pulling this up, and there we go. We'll put it into slideshow mode, so this looks really good. And let's talk a little bit about what we talked about last week and the logic behind it. So our week 1 summary, we wanted to where we could take advantage of the points on the conference rivals. We wanted to fade the really bad teams and then fade the rookie quarterbacks. And so that was kind of like the theme for week 1. let's have a look at how we did. And just from a pure betting perspective, we had three teasers at 200 or 2 units each, 200 each, and then two parlays, one that would have paid 600 and one that paid 750. Look, if you look at the math, if we hit one of the two parlays, and we're going to continue this format, we're basically in the money. We're playing with free money, right? So um, I may have to rename this show Pepe's Teasers instead of Pepe's Parlays because we did well on the teasers. Actually, the teasers really helped us out. So the first off, we teased the Cowboys. And again, this was a conference division. So the first point, we took the points, teased them up an extra six, and took the over. It was a great game. Cowboys really, really impressed. So keep an eye on Dak. We've seen a healthy Dak, put up fantastic seasons in the regular season. A few years ago, I think they went 14-3, and then just completely blow it in the playoffs, kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL, if you will. Same colors too, no coincidence. But I was impressed with what I saw with the Cowboys. So, but anyway, that turned out okay. The game was closer, so we stayed within our margin. Cowboys still lost, but we hit our teaser and we were up $200. Then we had the Finns, the Bucks, and the Bengals in a parlay. Uh, the Bengals got the win, but just barely, didn't come close to covering. And the Finns were a disaster. I mean, a lot of people had the Finns going into week one against the Colts. Everybody's healthy. Tua's healthy. Tyreek Hill is healthy. Waddle is healthy, right? New revamped offensive line, great edge rushers, middle linebackers are back. And we got beat by Johnny Dimes. Like, what can I say? There's not much I can say about the Finns other than we're not going to touch them. We're not fading them, but we're not betting them either because they do have the tools to turn things around. They're at home this week, but we're not betting them at all. And then the Bengals, man, they got off to such a slow start last year. They finished strong, and that's basically why they didn't make the playoffs. We really expected them to come out strong against a weak opponent. They barely got the win, but didn't cover. So that first parlay, I mean, it was we just may as well chuck it and you move on. The second one was the Niners, the Broncos, and the Texans. Niners ran into injury problems throughout the game. CMC was really, really impressive. Niners won on the road in Seattle. Very impressive win. The Broncos, this is the Bo Nix comment I made earlier. They should have absolutely rolled at home, but won but didn't cover. And then the Houston Texans lost in their game. We had money lined them, and that didn't work out either. So a little bit of concern possibly for CJ Stroud and the Texans with that offensive line. But nonetheless, let's we're learning as we go along, and we're going to get more information as how these teams perform. There was a lot of week one jitters, errors, penalties, injuries, and we basically didn't do very well at all in the parlays. I'll call a spade a spade. We then had the Ravens in a teaser over the Buffalo Bills and in the over in the game. We predicted that they were going to put on a show, and they put on a show, right? So this was Sunday Night Football, not Monday Night Football. And absolutely impressive game all along. We were on the right side of it with the Ravens. They should have won that game, as I mentioned earlier, up by 15 with 7 minutes left. But it turns out that with the comeback and having teased the Ravens, we were in the money, and we covered that one and we won that one. And then finally, the Bears and the under in a teaser. We were on the right side of that one for 3.5 quarters. We almost went 3 for 3 on our teasers, and then the Bears blew up. Absolutely blew up. For 3.5 quarters, they had the game in command. Low scoring defensive game at home, a game that you need to win. If you're the Chicago Bears, you're going to look at the tape and you say, how the hell did we lose that game? So, my heart goes out to Bears fans, although Dolphins fans, I don't know. I think I'd rather lose the way the Dolphins did than the way the Bears did, right? Like, I'd rather lose a game that we were never in than lose a game that I should have won and let go away. So that being said, The Bears under teaser did not come through, and we lost that one. So we went 2-1 on the teasers and 0 for 2 on the parlays. Our record from a units perspective, though, was 4-4. So we broke even in week one. Uh, and we learned a lot. So I'll take that. And so, didn't make any money, didn't lose any money, and we move on. That's basically it, right? So we move on we live to fight another day. Let's go on to the game tonight. We have the Commanders and the Packers. Packers at home. We talked about both teams. Daniels looks freaking amazing. Looked amazing against the Giants. The Packers were incredible, and in a completely one-sided victory. We're playing at a whole other level, mid-season form actually. Like nobody played better than Green Bay in my mind on both sides of the football. Um, you know, say what you will about the Bills' comeback, they still allowed 41 points at home against the Ravens, and they looked much, much better in the fourth quarter, but the first three quarters were terrible. Green Bay played a full, solid game, 4 quarters, both sides of the ball. They look like the most complete, the best team, the most ready team out there. And that being said, this is going to be a close game. The line actually moved from -3.5 to -3. I just took a look at it. But nonetheless, I still like this play. We're going to play the Commanders in a teaser, and we're going to tease them up to +9. And I absolutely love the over on this one. So bring the number from 43.5 down to 37.5. We're going to go with 2 units on this one. I would traditionally look at this. It's the first game that Jaden Daniels has at Lambdow Field. With the Cheeseheads, Green Bay fans are going to be super excited. It's a primetime game. But that being said, I mean, the Packers look so good. I wouldn't be shocked if Washington wins this game. A little bit of a letdown game after the Commanders' big Week 1 victory. And Daniels is that good. We saw some flashes of brilliance from Deebo Samuel. I expect Eckler to have a good game against this Giants defense. But Love and team will post points. Like these guys are good, right? On both sides, very balanced offense. So I expect some points. I might play the over on its own, over 43.5. And we're going to tease the Commanders +9, +9.5. And over 37.5 for our first bet of the week. We did a little. I guess I should have talked about this too. But if we looked at the Chat GPT AI predictions from last week, we were all right at the end of the day for the Thursday night game. The AI prediction of the week this week, we ran the models. Chat GPT has a 24-20 game. So they're basically saying Green Bay will cover the 3 on its own. Green Bay 27-20 over Washington, according to Grok. Now, that implies that the over hits on both of these predictions, both ChatGPT and Grok. What's really interesting is both AI models have Washington at 20 points. So that implies 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, or 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, and 1 missed PAT. But that was an interesting stat. I like Green Bay 27, Washington 24. I like this thing to be a little bit closer. That's my prediction. We'll check in next week. But we're all on the teaser hitting, basically, right? Like even in the Grok model where Green Bay wins by a touchdown, they're inside that 9.5. And we're well over the number for the over, the 37.5 that we're teasing. And then all models have us playing over on its own. So that's our AI prediction of the week as well. Let's take a look at the Sunday early picks. Some interesting games this week. I went through it. There's more games in the early slate than there are in the afternoon slate. The ratio is a little bit different because there's 2 Monday Night Football games, only 4 afternoon games to pick from. But nonetheless, we split it up this way, and we give you our 6 picks, and feel free to mix and match them the way you like. We're going to start off with Aaron Rodgers with probably the most impressive, comeback game. I saw a great front page from one of the New York newspapers, like, oh yeah, now he can play, right? Aaron Rodgers was really, really impressive in the first game of the season. And playing really well against a pretty good Jets defense, like especially on the secondary side. I expect them. So now the Seahawks travel to Pittsburgh from Seattle, right? We start taking into consideration the travel aspects here that goes into this. I really love Aaron Rodgers to win easily against the Seattle team. That's the first pick of the parlay, and I will absolutely be hammering this game on its own. I also expect that line to move. Like if it's under 3, under 1 field goal, and we talked about this last week, right? The two numbers you look for: 3, the field goal; 7, the 1 touchdown. Under 1 field goal at home against a Seattle team that's got to travel. I'm going to be all over the Steelers. I'm really, really impressed with Aaron Rodgers and this offense, and they're just going to get better as it progresses. Then we go to our second game. We talked about this. I don't love betting these conference games, but 5.5 is a lot of points, right? Giants, Cowboys. Giants defense is legit. The one bright spot, I guess, but are we going to see a change of quarterback with the Giants? Well, no, we still have Russell Wilson playing week 2. So we're not going to see Jackson Dart till at least week 3, or if the game's out of hand against the Cowboys. I just love the way Dak was playing. I love the fact that they've got depth at wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb has uh, another option, so he doesn't get all the attention. You're not going to double down on him with a safety and a DB. Um, they were a little bit more impressive in the running game too. They actually established a little bit of a running game against the Eagles. If they do that against the Giants, it's over. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to cover 5.5 in the week 2 matchup. It's probably the one I don't love the most, but I'm fading the Giants, who I don't think are a very good team overall. I wouldn't touch it if Jackson Dart was the quarterback, because I think he's got enough energy to carry a team like that. I think Russell Wilson is done, but they're giving him another week. Cowboys at home cover the 5.5 after being very, very impressive against the Eagles. And then our last game, and this is a tough one as well, because Brock Purdy, it has been announced, is not playing. He's got a sore toe and a sore shoulder. Kittle went on IR. He's going to be out for the next 4 weeks. Purdy did just enough. Nice comeback win. And he threw some passes that, honestly, I was a little shocked. 2 interceptions, threw passes into deep coverage that he probably shouldn't have thrown. Carried the team to victory nonetheless against Seattle on the road. So kudos to him. Mac Jones becomes your quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers without Kittle, and without Ayuk. Obviously, he's still out for a while, but he's got Pearsall, okay, fine, as a wide receiving option. Christian McCaffrey, though, what a machine! What an absolute machine! And the Niners defense really, really impressed. And so again, this is a team that is extremely well coached. Um, and on the defensive side of the ball, Rattler is not a guy who exudes confidence for the Saints. We talked about that earlier. If you stop Kamara, you stop the Saints. I expect the Niners to cover. I don't expect a ton of points with a backup quarterback. I expect them to run the ball, control the ball. And Mac Jones is, I would call, a serviceable backup quarterback. Like he would start in a lot of places. Honestly, Mac Jones would be a big upgrade in New Orleans if he was a starting quarterback. He has some reps in the NFL. Niners to cover, and I feel pretty good about it. The only thing that worries me are the injuries and then the travel. They went from Seattle to New Orleans. They've been on the road 2 weeks in a row. But again, this team is well coached. They'll be ready for the Saints. The Giants are going to benefit from this schedule. This is a very weak schedule, the weakest schedule in the NFL. So they have to win these games regardless of who's playing. So cap up the early parlay picks. Basically, we have the Steelers -2.5, Cowboys -5.5, and Niners at -3.5 in our first parlay. 1 unit, 100 will pay 600. We hope to hit a parlay on Pepe's parlay. So that's the first one. Then we go to the late picks, and this one is an interesting one because when I look at this selection, you've got you have only 4 games to pick from on the afternoon slate, so I had to pick 3 out of the 4, and so it actually forces me to look a little bit deeper. And then the more I looked at this, the better I kind of like these picks, right? So the Cardinals, not super impressive in week 1, but they get a really easy matchup, with the Panthers and with Bryce Young at home. And there's some, Kyler Murray played great. There's some amazing offensive weapons. I expect James Conner to get in the red zone maybe a couple of times, maybe wishful thinking that one because he is on my fantasy team. Marvelous Marvin Harris, who's a year 2 wide receiver. We're starting to see the chemistry between him and Murray. And I just think there's too much offense and then obviously McBride at the tight end position for the Cardinals. I think there's too much offensive firepower. And I just don't see the Panthers putting anything together and coming close to that. So under the touchdown and -6.5, I'll take that. And that's my first pick. I expect the Cardinals to be a little bit better. Hopefully they got their week 1 jitters out of the way. They won, but they should have covered. So if the Cardinals are one of these teams that win games they should win but don't cover, we'll absolutely keep that in mind. But right now we're gonna ride with them and see how it plays out. We go to the second pick, the very impressive Danny Dimes, who goes up against Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. The Colts defense was really, really impressive in week 1. The Broncos defense, though, should put a lot more pressure. Very interesting thing that happened with the Colts. They put up points in every single offensive possession against the Miami Dolphins. So is that because the Dolphins are so bad? Yes. Is it because the Colts got a lot better? Yes. And Danny Dimes scored himself 2 times. I mean, he actually carried the ball in. I happen to have him in my fantasy football league, and I benched him. I played CJ Stroud, and so did not have a chance to play him. In retrospect, hindsight's 2020, but second highest fantasy points behind only Josh Allen in week 1. So here, I was so unimpressed with Bo Nix and that offense. And then you combine that with, the Colts shutting down the Miami Dolphins, who still have a ton of offensive weapons with A-Chain, with Waddle and Tyreek. Tua looked awful. And Xavier Howard on that secondary is playing awesome. He's going to give Bo Nix about a lot of a hard time. And the Colts offensive line was impressive, right? So we didn't see much of Taylor running the ball, controlling the ball. So I like the Colts here to cover, and I have money line question mark. I may end up money lining the Colts to win and beat out the Broncos in the second leg of this parlay, and that's going to juice us up from, instead of winning 600, it'll be 750. So for now, for argument's sake, let's take the 2.5 in a close game. Feel free to play either way. I'm leaning more towards taking the points at this juncture, but we'll see what happens. Then we have an interesting game on Sunday. We have the Eagles, who beat out Dallas, played in a Thursday night football game, a great way to kick off the season, Super Bowl champions. And so they get to play at home in week 1, being the champions, and they got 10 days off, and they get to waltz their way into Kansas City. They could take a freaking Greyhound bus and get there. And that's like door number 1. And then door number 2, you got the Kansas City Chiefs, who played in Brazil on Friday and then had to get on a plane after the game, after losing in week 1, after losing Xavier Worthy at wide receiver, fly home, get back into some kind of a routine, and they have to face the Super Bowl champions, and the Eagles are only 1.5-point favorites. Whoever created this schedule is not a Pat Mahomes fan, is not a Chiefs fan. Now, you could say, oh, the Chiefs are legit, they're well coached, they're deep, there's no way they're going to lose 2 in a row. I'm going to say they're going to lose 2 in a row. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to start the season 0-2. The Eagles are going to win a close game, but 1.5 isn't a lot. They can win by 2 or 3 or 4. I really believe that this Eagles defense is so good, and Mahomes just doesn't have any weapons. Without Rashid Rice, without Worthy, you know, Juju is not the guy who's gonna get those catches for you, make those big plays. Marquise Hollywood Brown, um, you know, decent route runner, but he's not that target that Mahomes needs. And Kelsey slowed down, man. Travis is showing his age. So he made a couple of catches. He got one touchdown. All the Swifties were happy. Taylor will probably be in the house. Wouldn't be surprised if Travis gets 40, 50 yards receiving, maybe another touchdown. But is it going to be enough against this Eagles team? I don't think so. Love the Eagles, actually, and I'll be playing this one individually as well. It's one of my favorite bets. So Cards 6.5, Colts 2.5, and Eagles at 1.5. That's our second parlay. So let's move on to Sunday Night Football. We've got the Atlanta Falcons, impressive Atlanta Falcons. Love Penix. I think the core youth of this team, of the Falcons team, is really, really quite impressive. And you're going to see some guys really start to shine. One of the things that I find interesting about the Falcons is that they're spreading the ball around, to multiple targets. They've got Penix has quite a few options out there. And then on the other side of the ball, I was kind of fading JJ McCarthy. I'm like, hey, JJ's never played a game. I want to see what he can do. Man, was I wrong. Like, JJ is legit. Uh, and I'll shout out to Rob in a text message we were talking about, was it really JJ McCarthy or the coaching staff? And it's like, yeah, the coaching staff matters too, especially when you have a young quarterback. So Vikings were very, very impressive. That being said, I'm really excited for this game. I mean, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to see a lot of points in this one. Love the over 45.5 on its own. And 4.5 points, I think, is just too much to give to the Vikings. So this is another great teaser. We get to tease this to 10.5. I don't think the Vikings win by 11 or 2 touchdowns. I think the Falcons play close. I do think the Vikings win at home. But I do believe that it's going to be much closer, and it's going to be a great battle of 2 young quarterbacks, right? Like, regardless of where you feel the guys are in their journey. Great start for JJ McCarthy, though. And can he put 2 in a row together? Yeah, he can. But Penix is legit as well. Great weapons, and we should see a great matchup there. Then we switch over to Monday Night Football. We have the Los Angeles Chargers playing against Vegas. And the Chargers were the other team that was in Brazil that beat out the Kansas City Chiefs. Fabulous victory by the Chargers. Herbert was really, really impressive in that game. Like, really impressive. Like, tossing dimes out there. But again, you have a team that played in Brazil. They have an extra day to get ready over the Chiefs, and they're playing Vegas Raiders. They're not playing against the Super Bowl champions. But that being said, I love Vegas at home, and I'll tell you, Vegas won on the road last week against the New England Patriots. They come back home. Geno Smith, and this is, I saw this stat a while ago. Geno Smith, when he plays in a dome, has stats that are top 3 in the NFL. Like, he stands up to anybody, right? And when he's on the road, playing at outdoor stadiums in January, I wouldn't play him in New England or in Buffalo in January necessarily, or favor him. But in a dome environment, he is money. He loves playing indoors, and he gets to play at a great brand new indoor stadium in Vegas against the Chargers team that has to travel all the way from Brazil after a big win. It's a great letdown spot. I really like this pick for Monday Night Football. We're going to put another 2 units on there, but I'm going to be playing this game a lot. Like, I'll be sprinkling a little bit of Vegas money line on here as well. But Vegas plus 9.5 and over 40 is our second teaser, or over 40.5. for 2 more units. And I really love the teasers again this week, So Pepe's teasers might be the name of our show next week. So let's summarize it for the week. We had the Commanders in the over Green Bay for 2 units to start off the week. That starts in a few hours. We got the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Niners in the first parlay. The Arizona Cardinals, the Colts, and the Eagles in the second parlay. Atlanta in a teaser in the over, and then Vegas in another over teaser for Monday Night Football. There's actually 2 Monday Night Football games that we need to watch for. What are we summarizing? We love high scoring games in prime time. So that's why Thursday night, Monday night, like we love playing these teasers. We love playing the over. Sunday Night Football, all eyes are on you. The boys put on a show, and the NFL is all about that. So you're likely to see teams that have bigger offenses on these prime time games. That was not true when Amazon got Thursday Night Football a couple of years ago. They seem to have changed that around. The Thursday night lineup is impressive so far. Number 2, fade the travelers. If you're flying all the way from Seattle and you got to go face a tough team, if you're flying all the way from Brazil, both the Chargers and Kansas City, we're fading the teams that have to travel 11, 12 hours and then end up playing, with 6 days rest in the case of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I say 6 days because it takes you a couple of days to get in and settled in. Flying in from Brazil on Saturday, you get in late Saturday, so Sunday. So you may as well have played on Sunday instead of playing on Friday. You don't really get that advantage. And they're playing a well-rested Eagles team that has 10 days rest. So we're going to fade both the Chiefs and fade the Chargers. And then check those injury reports. So, the one that I'm a little bit reluctant with, if the Niners were playing anyone but the Saints, I wouldn't be touching the Niners. I just feel that Christian McCaffrey can beat them on his own. So that's how strongly I feel about that. And that's our show for this week, guys. Thanks very much for joining. I will remind you that there's a tip button there. If you use any of our bets and you do well, please feel free to hit that tip button. Any money that you give us through the tips will be donated to a charity. We'll be announcing who the charity is a little bit down the road. But if you do make money, you want to share some of that wealth, if you hit a couple of parlays, please share the love. Week 1, I didn't make any money, but I didn't lose you any money, and we learned a lot. So that's the key thing. And then finally, quick little shout out to the Kirk family for their tragic loss. Our prayers are with him and his family. What happened is awful. It's not the country that we are. It's not who we are about. There's no room for violence over disagreements. So we've been praying for the Kirk family, and praying for America, quite honestly, right? Praying for us to all be better. Hug your kids, hug your family, and be careful out there. Let's enjoy some football and have a great time. Let's hopefully make some money. I'll see you next week at the same time, Thursday, 2:00 Pacific, exclusively here on No Filter, and we're posting our videos now on YouTube as well. Keep me honest, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.